Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining. I'm going to give it another minute or so, let people join. Sometimes it takes a minute to actually get out of the waiting room. So hang tight. All right. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining. A couple of housekeeping things in the beginning. And so on the bottom of your screen, you should see a button that says Show Captions. So if those aren't on, go ahead and click that so you can have captions. We do have two ASL interpreters. You should be able to see them. If you have any issues seeing the interpreters, please use the chat. We will have a Q&A at the end. There is a Q&A option. So you can send your questions right in there. I'll be monitoring that. Yeah, I think that's it for the logistics. So my name is Brad McKenna. I am the chair of the ALAA interest group Bridging Deaf Cultures. And I wanted to start the year off strong. So the group is dedicated to helping librarians serve the deaf and hard of hearing community. And a big piece of that is putting people in touch with resources. And so if you have any resources or any ideas on how the Bridging Deaf Cultures group should be used, please get in touch with me. I'll put my email address in the chat. But that's enough about me. So I want to introduce Melissa Kruse, who will be our presenter today. Melissa Kruse is the National Chapter Engagement Manager for the Hearing Loss Association of America, or the HLAA. She serves as the key liaison between the national office and local chapters, supporting leadership development, program planning, membership trends, fundraising initiatives, and communication strategies that strengthen chapter engagement nationwide. She also manages chapter resources, annual trainings, and previously oversaw HLAA's national convention and webinar programs. Before joining HLAA, Melissa held leadership roles in major national events, including serving as the Director of External Operations for the NCAA Women's Final Four in Columbus and Deputy Director of Transportation and Logistics for the Democratic National Convention Committee. She also contributed to Columbus's strategic bid for the 2016 Democratic National Convention and earlier served in the Clinton administration as a special advisor to the President of the United States and Director of Outreach for the Office of the Special Envoy for the Americas. So Melissa, you've done a lot. So thank you for joining today, and please take it away.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad to be here and to be able to talk about some of HLA's resources. As Brad mentioned, I am the National Chapter Engagement Manager, and today just wanted to talk about how libraries can support patrons with hearing loss by using hearingloss.org, our website, as a trusted, free resource hub. Libraries play such a vital role in access to information, and hearing accessibility fits really naturally into that mission. So I'm just really excited to show you some of our tools. Um, hearingloss.org is HLA's national website. It's designed for people with hearing loss, their families, professionals, and community organizations. The homepage is basically your dashboard to everything HLA offers. It highlights the most relevant user-focused information and directs people to the tools they may need most. It's really divided into multiple sections, and we're really going to talk about four of them today. The key sections we're going to talk about are understanding hearing loss, find help, advocacy and resources, and get involved. And these sections really highlight the most relevant user focused information, and it can really direct people to the tools they need the most. It's organized so people who don't know medical terminology can get started. And we're going to kind of go in here and do a little deeper dive into each of the sections. We're going to start with the understanding hearing loss section. This is a key section, as it's usually the first kind of educational zone for someone who suspects that they or someone they may know may have hearing loss. It not only explains the symptoms and types of hearing loss, but gives actionable tips on how to improve communication, how to seek help. It explains hearing loss in really clear, approachable terms, covers the type of hearing loss, common causes, um, prevention, and what sort of things people may experience in daily life. For librarians, I think this is a great place to point patrons who say things like, I think I'm missing parts of conversation, or I don't know if this is normal aging or something else. So as I mentioned, there is a section dedicated specifically to the signs and symptoms of hearing loss. It has a practical list of things to look for to help recognize what is hearing loss in yourself or in loved ones. Um, it also has links to the Hear Well screening test and also the Know Your Hearing numbers from that's a resource put out by John Hopkins. There are just a variety of different things on here that people can use as a resource. We also have the next section, which is different types of hearing loss. Um, it talks about age-related hearing loss, noise-induced hearing loss. So this is, again, if someone comes in and says, I suddenly woke up and can't hear in one of my ears, what do I do? We've got a section in here on sudden deafness. They can look at that and have that as a resource. I really want to also specifically point out the tinnitus section, which really talks about what tinnitus is, symptoms, causes. It directs people to, if they need to find more information. This is one of the most utilized pages on our entire website, which I know looking at our website, you wouldn't necessarily think that, but it is. And so I really wanted to make sure that people were aware that this is on our website. We also have within this, we have our hearing loss toolkit. This is a set of shareable guides on recognition, treatment, and communication. It's interactive, it's downloadable. You can print out PDFs. So again, if someone's putting together, a presentation and they need key facts and statistics, you can direct them to this and they can download, they can view those. If they need communication tips, again, we've got that here. It's something that can be downloaded, printed out, taken home. They can utilize it as needed. So that's kind of this whole section of understanding hearing loss. And now I'm going to move into our find help section. And I just wanted to point out up at the top of my presentation, which I'm also going to share with Brad, so he can, if anyone wants this afterwards, he can share it with you. Up at the top, I've tried to, in the headers, put where within our website you would find these different sections. So for this one, you go to the home, find help, and then you would see these different pieces. So we've got within the find help 4 different areas: technology, medical, financial, and lifestyle. This section gives practical guidance, not just on what hearing loss is, but how to act on it. It's for people who are looking for different options, devices, professionals, financial help, lifestyle support. And within it, we have these even kind of deeper dives that walk through, under technology, for example, we've got information about Oracast, we've got information about over-the-counter hearing aids, cochlear implants, captioning. And I'm going to break these down a little bit more as we go through, but we just have these different pieces underneath this whole find help section. Within the technology section, like I said, we've got Auracast, over-the-counter hearing aids, hearing assistive technology, um, phones, mobile devices, captioning. This section, really kind of introduces the different technologies that support communication access. You don't need to be a technology expert to share this information, and you don't really need to be a technology expert to understand this information. The website does the heavy lifting and explains options in pretty plain language. And then I'm also going to kind of walk through some of these subsections that I think might be of significant interest to your patrons. Auracast is really kind of the hot new technology out there. It's a newer broad-based technology that allows sound to be broadcast directly from a source like a PA system or a TV to compatible devices. It has really exciting implications for public spaces, including libraries, especially for programs, lectures, events. If you have people who are asking about it, this is a place where they can find more information. If you have questions about it, this is a place where you can find more information. If it's something that you're exploring for your library, you can look here. We also have just information about all the different types of hearing assisted technology, which is devices, tools, software, equipment that can help people better understand speech, music, and other sounds, so they can more fully participate in um, different activities in their life. We also have a section in here that's specifically directed to smartphone accessories and applications. And I think this is actually a really neat section in our website. We've got information about different captioning apps, but it also has both for smartphones, both iPhone and Android, and you can kind of see over on the side. You can click on these sections and it brings up the usability, accessibility features, and you can select your phone model and it will tell you what um, how to access those different features on your phones. And this, I think, is, if you have someone who comes into the library and, has questions about, gosh, how do I turn on various accessibility features on my phone? This is a great place you can go and click, and it will, by looking up what version of, of an iPhone they have, you can see what accessibility features are available and how to access them. We also have the Find Help Medical section. This includes information on how to talk with doctors, what professionals are out there, how to prepare for an appointment, and then how to communicate successfully at your appointment. Learning your rights as a person with hearing loss within the healthcare system. Then, as I mentioned, we have a financial assistance section. This talks about different types of coverage. Cost is one of the biggest barriers to hearing care. And this section explains insurance options, Medicare and Medicaid coverage, other potential sources of financial assistance, tips for paying for hearing health care, different things like that. So this is a great section if someone comes in and was like, gosh, where do I find resources for getting a hearing aid? This is a great place you can direct them to. We also have, lifestyles, which is coping, the social and emotional strategies to live well with hearing loss. We did a whole thing last year about the stigma of hearing loss. That was part of our research symposium. That's on here under the emotional side. We've got a Beyond the Ears campaign and all of that information. So really kind of how you can cope with hearing loss or help someone else that a loved one or friend cope with hearing loss. That's in here. Hearing loss is more than just not being able to hear. It's really an emotional, we found that folks with hearing loss have, issues with depression, loneliness, isolation. So this is if someone comes in and, is really struggling, this is a great resource to direct them to if they have, a friend or family member who's struggling and they don't know how to help them. This section is a great place to help them go to discover more information. Um, and now I'm going to go into the third major section of our website, which is advocacy and resources. This section highlights our advocacy section. Our advocacy efforts, how HLA fights for rights at both a national and local level for accessibility laws, communications access, captioning, healthcare coverage. It includes things like our action alerts, which is what I've got highlighted here. This is where members of the community can take direct action on issues related to hearing health. Example, we are currently promoting ALLES Act, which is federal legislation that's pending, and we're trying to generate support. So if people want to, specifically take action, write their member of Congress, reach out to their senator. This section, specifically our action alert section, is a place where they can go and do that. It also, and this is where sometimes our website, I'll be honest, doesn't always make sense why you would find certain things in certain places. And so I really wanted to highlight this because I'm not really sure why these sections fall under advocacy, but they are. We have hearing health communications, our public listening systems, our Get in the Hearing Loop, and employment. And these are all, and I think this is why they're under advocacy, is they're all grassroots related task force, but there are also some really amazing resources within each of these. So we're going to kind of go through these subsections, which are in there as well.
Melissa,
So,
quick question here. So we have a question here about where do we find equivalent resources for children's and teams, like IDEA or 504 plans, financing for the hearing aids as well for youth. So is that in the advocacy as well?
no, that would actually be under the Get Help section. Back here on like financial assistance, we don't break it out between
Okay.
parents or between adults and children. We have just started a national parents group, and as part of that, we are parents and caregivers of children with hearing loss. And as part of that, we are adding in a section within the website that will have some more resources that are specifically directed towards that. But right now, we don't really break out. We don't differentiate between adults and children.
But websites are always changing though, right? So
They are always
keep an eye on
changing. And
them.
I will, as we get towards further down, I'll show you where you can actually do a search of all of our resources. So, which includes, like articles, blogs, things like that. And so that could be something that, if someone wanted to put in like 501, 504 plans or IEPs or things like that, you can search there and pull up any resources within our website that relate to that.
Great. Thank you.
So, um, so anyway, our various task force, as I mentioned, and let me kind of show you, for example, our communications access in healthcare, the CAHC, has resources for patients and for providers, and also how to know your medical rights. And the Communications Access and Healthcare Program is, as I said, a grassroots initiative that focuses on improving communications between patients with hearing loss and their healthcare provider. It highlights the frequent barriers people with hearing loss face in clinical settings. For example, mishearing instructions, missing critical information, or struggling during appointments. Each of these subsections has a variety of information in there. So the resources for patients helps individuals with hearing loss understand what they can request and prepare with for a healthcare visit. It includes information about a communications access plan, which is a one-page form that patients can complete and share with their medical team to clearly document their hearing status, their communications preference, what kind of aid or service they need. This plan helps healthcare staff to know exactly how to best communicate with them during appointments. We have resources for providers. This provides a complete provider guide for healthcare professionals and administrators because while audiologists and things may be very familiar with hearing loss, um, other healthcare providers, administrators, technicians may not be as familiar with this. So it has information about hearing loss, the legal and ethical communication obligations of a healthcare provider administrator, practical communication strategies for dealing with emergencies and inpatient and outpatient settings, and how to use communication aids and respect patient preferences. And this is really a resource that a lot of our members use when they go to the doctors, their hospitals, to really encourage them to adopt best practices and inclusive communication techniques. And then we also have the Know Your Medical Rights section. And this section is dedicated to helping patients understand their rights under the ADA and other relevant laws. It explains what healthcare facilities must provide and how patients can advocate for themselves and their loved ones. And then we have the Get in the Hearing Loop, GITL, which is the healthcare uh, grassroots communications access program that promotes the use of hearing loops and the type of assisted listening technology in public places throughout the United States. And we're really going to they've got a lot of information in there. So we're going to again, dive into it a little bit more deeply. But I did want to point out that one of the things, Google Maps actually includes a list of, you can go in there and see if a venue is looped and hearing accessible. So if, a patron comes in and is like, gosh, I'm trying to find out if, a particular place, a theater or something has a hearing loop, how would I even find that? They can actually go to Google Maps, and this section of our website shows you how to do that and how to access this. And Brett, I think you had mentioned that the Get in the Hearing Loop section, this whole section was one of the ones that you found really helpful for you as a librarian.
Absolutely. So I use the resources on this section of the website to justify it. So I wasn't able to buy a loop for my library because it's so expensive. And with Oracast coming in, tearing up the floor, a concrete floor in a conference room wasn't something that the town could get behind because I work for a public library. But the other resources in there allowed me to get an FM system that has personal neck loops. So you can use the resources here for other assisted listening systems, not just the loop, because there is a lot of different options, but it's got so much good information here about why and how and the logistics of everything. So if you're looking to get an assisted listening system funded for one of your conference rooms, look at these pages, because there's a lot of information that you could give to your library director or your town manager, your mayor, or whoever holds the purse strings in order to justify that it is a good investment. So yeah, great resource.
Yes, and we actually one of a professor at one of the universities, I believe it was NYU, I don't remember off the top of my head, but he had reached out to us about how could he go about getting a couple of his classrooms looped, and we directed him to this section, which we'll kind of talk about a little bit more, but and he was able to use that and then work with our New York City chapter, and recently was able to get both a smaller classroom and a large lecture room at the university looped to provide access not only for him and his students, but for other folks as well. So there are a lot of resources. So again, within the section, we've got a toolkit handbook, part 1 and part 2, advocacy, how to advocate for loops, Um, Information about what telecoils are, understanding hearing loops. Again, the Google Maps is in here. Um, how to promote hearing loops on Google Maps. So if someone is like, gosh, this, I've been in this place and it's loop, but I don't see it on Google Maps. There's actually information in here about how you or library patrons can take action. And then, Brad, I think this is a section you were talking about too, where it really talks about the loop technology and how it can be installed and best practices and things. All right. And so that's kind of this whole section. And then, oh, no, forgot there were a couple more pages. We've got the toolkit, the hearing loop toolkit checklist, and then also information that if someone goes to their audiologist, how they can make sure their telecoil is turned on. Because that's actually something that people have found that telecoils, which is a part of the device that allows you to utilize a hearing loop. Not all audiologists always tell their patients about that, and patients don't necessarily know how to ask if they have a telecoil or how to utilize it. So there's some information in there about how to deal with that and how to work with your audiologist.
I just want to jump in here real quick to kind of piggyback what you had said, Melissa, is with the emphasis on visibility with hearing aids, sometimes the device is too small for the hearing loop or for the T-coil in the actual device. So I wear hearing aids. I've been wearing them for 20 years. And until I went to the HLA National Convention in 2024, I had never used the T-coil in my hearing loop because I didn't know how. And so definitely ask your audiologist or have your patrons ask their audiologist if you have a hearing loop and to turn it on, because you do have to have a setting to actually make use of it. And one other thing I wanted to mention about audiologists is sometimes they're so busy, not sometimes, they're always so busy. And so this site that Melissa is showing is a great resource for patrons to get information so they know what questions to ask when they go to their audiologist. Because this is like prime example is like, does my hearing device have a T-coil? And so this is great stuff. So I just wanted to piggyback on that while you were talking about it. So
Yeah, it's really important. Like you said, a lot of times people don't even necessarily know what questions to ask their doctors, you know, about their specific aid, their specific type of hearing aid, or, if they think they might be having hearing loss. So that's where all of this is really a great resource to direct people to, so that they can really be informed and go in and make, have really good appointments and make informed, decisions and questions. So, the third kind of section is that within this advocacy piece that is another task force is our task force for accessible inclusive employment, or our employment task force. And this really supports communication access in the workplace for hearing loss. We have quarterly webinars, and then they have a convention workshop. I'm actually a part of this task force. So I kind of refer to it as we, because this is one of my little groups. But this is a great resource for folks who have concerns about the workplace and accessibility, things like disclosing, how to deal with certain situations at work. We actually have our webinar coming up on February 18th that will be really interesting because it's non-traditional jobs. So we've got someone who works for NASA on the floor helping build rockets, who has hearing loss. We've got a woman who works in hospitality as a bartender, who is obviously in a noisy environment. We've got someone who's an ENT that he's with the fire and police department. So we've got some different types of hearing loss. So it's not even just always in an office setting how to address it. So this is a great place if someone, has again been, discovered that they have hearing loss or has sudden hearing loss or just doesn't really know how to deal with the workplace situation. And also, besides what we have, such as the various webinars and things, and all of our webinars are recorded and are up on our website, but there are also some additional places. So, the ADA Employment Resource Hub. So, if you've got questions about, you know, my boss is doing this, and is that actually, legal, or what sort of accommodations can I ask for? These are great resources to direct people to. We've got information about workplace tech that various HLA members recommend and say, hey, this is what I use in my job, in my employment. This is how I deal with this situation. So again, there are some various resources here that people can use to find information. And then I mentioned our resource center, and when we were talking about how, like youth and specific things for, children and things. Um, this is also within our advocacy section, and it's, as I said, our resource section. You can search by keyword, you can search by category, you can search by topic, and just go in there, and it will pull up, everything that's related to employment or everything that's related to hearing aids or everything that's related to hearing loops. Or you can just, search by 504 plans or children and find all of those different resources that are there. So again, if someone comes into the library and says, I'm trying to find out about X related to hearing loss, but I don't even know where to start. This is a great place. You can go in and type in a keyword and see what comes up. And then you may be able to tell from different sections and be like, hey, it looks like they've got a lot under advocacy here. Maybe look under that. So just again, a great place to search, play around with, etc. And then the kind of final big section is our get involved section. This section helps people connect and grow and be a part of a community with others who share a lived experience, and then, really kind of gain deeper access to our in-person resources and community support. And we've got, again, different sections and subsections in here: our convention, our chapters, our veterans, walk for hearing, our educational webinars. Again, all of our webinars are recorded on all of our different topics. So you can always, if you want to learn, watch them, or if you want to direct someone to them, that's a great place. But we can kind of go into each of these different things. Our chapter events calendar. This is a great place for people if they're looking for something, or if you're looking for something that's locally happening in your community. It also has all of our different virtual events as well. So, unfortunately, we don't happen to have chapters in every city in the country. I wish we did. It's my goal, but we're not there yet. But we do have a lot of virtual events. So, again, if someone comes in and says, I'm looking for resources, I'm struggling, my husband's struggling, my father's struggling, look at our virtual calendar event, direct them there, because this is, again, we have support groups. A lot of our chapters do virtual or hybrid meetings. They're always welcome. So, that's a great place to look. Wide range of topics. All of our chapters do different meetings, different topics. So you can find anything from, a book club um, to a presentation on music. And we have had quite a bit of success with our book clubs. One of my favorite HLA members, who's in her mid 80s, joined her first book club about a year ago. And she was so excited because she's always been a big reader, but had never been able to participate in a book club because of her hearing loss. And most book clubs are done in person. And so she wasn't able to really ever do that. Our book clubs are all virtual. And so it's a great way for folks who love to read and want to be a part of a community and be a part of a book club to participate without and be able to do that and not have issues with not being able to hear and participate. So That's again, a great resource. We've had several librarians who are also HLA members and Brad, you may be one of them, who have started book clubs in their community. And it's been a really neat thing to watch. But so that's our calendar piece. Um, we also have our chapters. Our chapters are local volunteer-led groups that are affiliated with HLA, and they provide community-based education, support, and advocacy on a local level. And again, you can go in and under the Find a Chapter section, you can direct your patrons to, if you're in Arizona, click on the Arizona. It will bring up all of the chapters, within that area and have information about when they meet, their website, their Facebook page, all of that. So that's a great kind of local resource. Um, our veterans chapter. Hearing loss is actually the #1 disability among veterans. And so we do provide a virtual veterans chapter that meets monthly to provide support for this community. There's information about it. We meet on the third Tuesday of every month. A lot of times we have an educational component, but it's also just peer-to-peer support for veterans. So if you have someone from the veteran community who is struggling with hearing loss, this is a great resource. A lot of times the veterans talk amongst themselves of like, oh, hey, I ran into this problem at the VA. And someone else can say, oh, I did too. And this is how I dealt with it. So this is a great resource specifically for veterans. We have our annual convention that Brad mentioned where he went and learned about telecoils. This happens annually. This year it's in Louisville from June 10th to 12th. We have a variety of workshops, educational workshops, demonstrations, research symposium, an exhibit hall, so much more. Our exhibit hall is free. So if you happen to be, joining us from Kentucky, feel free to direct your folks to come up at least to our exhibit hall because lots of resources there. There's no charge. We do a research symposium, which then our research symposium is the only portion of our convention that is then put on our website. But that information does go up on our website. As I mentioned last year, it was the stigma of hearing loss. This year, it's AI and how that's impacting hearing technology. And so that information will be on our website post-convention, the whole symposium. So that's just kind of some information there that people can find. We also have our Walk for Hearing. These are community events that take place in 20 cities annually. It brings together people with hearing loss, their families, their friends, supporters to raise awareness, build community, and support HLA's mission. Within this section of our website, you can find out if one is taking place in your community or where one's taking place. They are a fundraiser, but you don't have to donate or raise funds to participate. So again, if you've got someone who's trying to find, who's attending who's at your library and is trying to find a community, this is a great place to send them because they can participate. There's no charge. And just like all of our resources on our website, everything is free. We don't charge for within our website, we don't charge for, webinars. There are no paywalls or anything. It's all there for people to participate in. And that's really kind of a broad overview. There's so much within our website. I'll be honest, I struggled to kind of really get this down to be within, under an hour and still leave time for questions and all of that. But so there's a lot of information and resources that I did not even necessarily really delve into, but I encourage you to bookmark the site, take time to explore it and use it as a trusted resource. And thank you, for being here and learning how you might be able to use hearingloss.org to support your library and your patrons. I'm open to any questions.
Yeah, so if anybody has any questions, please use the Q&A. I will thank Melissa for doing all the hard work to figure out what parts of the website to talk about because I use it regularly because there's so much information there. I do tech help sessions at the library, and I've been more open with my hearing loss in the last like 5 years. And that means that I'm getting more patrons asking me about my hearing aids or hearing loss. And I use this website to just kind of give them a reference work. I mean, we don't really have reference collections anymore, at least in my library, because everything's online. And this is one of the ones that I usually point people towards because there's just so much good information. So it's great. All right. So, oh, we got a question here. So let me see here. So we have senior planet technology classes, and it would be great if they had one on accessibility apps and accessories. Oh, I already sent them an email, asked if they would check out your resource. So there we go. So we got, we're spreading the word, Melissa, which is
Great.
great. Yeah. So thank you, Katie.
Wonderful.
Melissa mentioned a webinar in February regarding non-traditional workspaces and jobs. Would you mind repeating the date and info? Is it listed on the webinar page of the website?
It is on the webinar page of the website, and I'm flipping back here. If you look at if you look at this actual slide, it's February 18th from 2 to 3 p.m. And you can register, people can register at hearingloss.org/work. So
Great. Sounds like, yeah. So the virtual, I love the virtual information because it's much more accessible, right? I mean, you don't have to physically be there, which is helpful. And the captioning, I mean, I use captions all the time on everything, and that's helpful as well. So I will say that the virtual it is lacking something. So I wanted to mention the chapter page, the find a chapter page, because I use that. So I'm north of Boston, and I use that to actually find my local chapter. And if your library is focuses on meeting rooms, so I have a small physical collection because we don't have the money for a new building. And so years ago, we kind of pivoted and focused more as a community center. And so my local chapter, the Boston chapter, used one of the rooms for an in-person meeting. And I know a lot of people are looking for community, and you don't really get that virtually to the same degree you do in person. So I would recommend using this page to see if there's a chapter near you, and then reach out to them. And if you do allow outside groups to book conference rooms, have them book that conference room to get people together. It's in person. There's no substitute for that in person, off the cuff kind of communications when you get people in a room about hearing loss, because it affects every part of my life. And so to be able to talk about that with someone is invaluable. So if you do have a library that does allow conference rooms to be used by outside people, I would strongly recommend using this resource to see who's in your area. Uh,
absolutely. Because
yeah.
I was going to say our chapters definitely are always, uh, they all met in person prior to COVID, and then COVID
Mhm.
happened. Obviously, everything went virtual. Some of them have gone to a hybrid format. Some of them gotten back to totally meeting in person. And then we still have some that are meeting virtually. And part of that is because a lot of chapters lost their meeting space during
Yeah,
COVID and have not been able to find spaces since then. So if you have a library, as Brad said, if you have space that you open to the public and there are chapters near you, definitely reach out because, our chapters are looking for spaces, and, it is, I think there's nothing, I see this at our convention and things. There's nothing like the meeting in person piece.
absolutely. So Danica, the presentation, I will send it out and I will upload it to the ALA Connect page. So Melissa has kindly agreed to share out the presentation. And she's also asked, are there resources about amplification products for different spaces that aren't necessarily hearing loops on the website?
Yes, there are. And that is, can we go back here? Um, it's under, it's here under that hearing assisted technology. So, like assisted listening systems. So, again, this is where you've got information about hearing loops, the FM system, Brett. I think that's what you mentioned that you
Yep.
put in, Oracast, Wi Fi audio systems. All of that is in here. And again, if you go to this section and you click on, say, FM systems, it will take you to a subpage that has, all the details about an FM system, how, et cetera. So much more information there. Again, this is kind of where I ran into how much and how deep into our website do I go? But yes, there is that information there as well.
I think you did a good job. There's so much there. I
There
think the high
really,
level.
there really is. And, again, I have my email and Brad has my email and things. It's mkruse@hearingloss.org. Feel free to reach out to me if you have specific questions or if you're trying to find something on our website. I'm happy to, um, whoops. Um, I'm happy to help and, try and direct you to the right place.
So I'm going to give it another minute or so to see if there's any other questions here. But I just want to say again, thank you so much. I think that it's a great resource. I've been involved in the HLA community for a year and a half, almost 2 years now. And I think that I can speak as someone who has hearing loss, how useful it is, but also as a librarian, I use this because um, libraries were traditionally quiet environments, and they probably aren't as quiet as people think anymore. But I don't think the deaf and hard of hearing communities really understand that libraries can be a resource for them. But there's so much information there. So I think that, yeah, so thank you. Let's see. I don't think I see any other questions. So I think we can end a little early, and please reach out to either me or Melissa with any other information and any other ideas that you think that the Bridging Deaf Cultures group as a whole can do. We want to make sure that we're helping libraries bring in the deaf and hard of hearing communities. And I'm only one person. So please, if everyone has any other ideas, let me know.
And if anyone would like to, do something within your community, within your library, have someone come in and speak specifically to your library, please reach out to me. We do have people around the country who can do that. We have, we can do things virtually. So, would be happy to help engage with folks within, the various communities around the country.
Marvelous. Thank you so much. And I want to say thank you to our interpreters as well. I always like to make sure that the events are as accessible as possible, and I can't do that without them.
Thank you. Thank you, Brad, for having me.
You're welcome. Take care, everybody.